my econ teaches, and she has become a poster board example of the type of leader my econ is proud to call a partner. Helping us understand the correcting of tax withholding, let's welcome EVP Platinum, Ms. Nicole Pettiway. Nicole, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. The call is yours.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. And thank you to June, Ivy, Alvin, the My Econ family for allowing me to be able to present. And I'm going to take us through one of the very first key steps for us to get on the road to financial freedom, and that is our W-4. So it's really important to know when someone signs up for My Econ, our associates should complete that W-4 as quickly as possible within the first few days, ideally. And when we're bringing people in, it's important for us to ensure that they're doing it. We do have W-4 training in the back office for people as part of their orientation, but I also recommend taking people through it because, as we all know, the W-4 can be a little bit confusing to some people. And so we want to make sure that they get that, because that's step number one in the income shifting that June mentioned, is making sure that people can free up their taxes, get that money, which I call seed money, in order to begin the rest of the income shifting process, which is dictated in our personal cash flow plan. So I'm going to walk you through the online W-4 form, which is an excellent tool. I'm super happy that the IRS has put this form on there. It has certainly made it much easier to do and has removed some of the complication out from completing the actual W-4 form. So what we do is we usually go through and we start with going to the IRS site. You can either Google the IRS W-4 online, or you can go to irs.gov, which is the main site that I'm showing here on my screen. And then you can click on the form W-4 here. The site has changed a little bit because they've added a lot of stuff about coronavirus, but you can click on the form W-4, and that's going to take you to the W-4. And then you click on the IRS tax withholding calculator. So this is another way to actually get to the W-4 online. Now it says here in the instructions, before you begin, you want to sit down. You want to make sure that you, or if you're working with someone else and sharing this with them, that they have their most recent pay stubs and their tax information from last year. And if they have other sources of income outside of their jobs, they need to have that as well, because this is the first step. And we know that we should complete the W-4, and it says it here on the form, when at least once a year, because things change year over year, our financial situations change year over year, or when your financial situation changes. So at a minimum, once a year, we should all be doing this. And ideally, you would do it at the beginning of the year, once you get your first pay stub, and you can sit down and complete this withholding estimator. So what I'm going to do is give you an example of someone who's a single parent making $50,000 a year with 2 children under the age of 18. And I want to show you how a single parent making $50,000 a year with 2 small children can actually not have to pay, or pay very little in taxes. And you're going to see this example. So then you click on the use the tax withholding estimator, and that's going to take you to the actual form. So as you can see, there's 6 sections to this estimator. It's actually, once you've gone through it once, it becomes fairly easy to get through. You start with the About You section, which is just information about you or the person, whomever is filling out this form. So in the example that I'm using, this person's filing status, because they're single and because they have dependents and they're no one can pay more than 50% of taking care of them, they're going to file as head of household. And if you don't understand what those are, you can click on the help function, which is located all throughout this form, that gives you an explanation of what some of those things are. And then it gives you links to the IRS publications. I recommend going through and clicking these items for each one. And then I personally like to get a deeper understanding of what the tax information is. So I actually go to the publications and read the related information. So it's always good to have a deeper understanding of how these tax guidelines are working. So as you're working with people, you're building your business, you're bringing people on, you have a good understanding, as many people have different situations. So the next one is, can someone else claim you as a dependent on their tax return? In this case, we're going to say no. Number of dependents. How many dependents do you anticipate claiming on your tax return this year? In the example that I'm using, she has 2 dependents. Do you, section 3 of 5, do you or will you hold a job this year from which federal taxes is regularly withheld? Yes, taxes are taken out of her paycheck. How many jobs do you expect to hold this year? In my example, only 1 job. Pension. Will you receive pension? Not old enough to receive a pension yet, so click no. And then section 5, click any other sources of income or tax payments. So this is for if you're getting some additional income above and beyond a job. I want to call out this section because there's something going on that's very relevant for us as it relates to the W-4. Studies showed, or the news reported, that over 6 million people filed for unemployment last year. So you may come across a situation, or you may even be in this situation where you're going to collect unemployment compensation. If someone is collecting unemployment, they need to select this box right here, because unemployment is still considered taxable income. So when you file unemployment, you have a choice of paying taxes, not having taxes taken out, or having taxes taken out. So that's going to play a part. So if that's your situation, you would click here, and then there's some questions subsequent about whether or not you had taxes taken out. So really important, even if your job situation changed and you're going to collect unemployment, then you want to fill out the form and select this area. In her case, she's not collecting unemployment, she's full-time employed, and then the other demographics don't apply, not older than 65 and not blind, so we'll click next. The next section is income and withholding, all about your job. So do you expect to hold this job for the entire year? In her example, in the example I'm using, it's yes. How frequently are you paid? The example I'm using, this person is paid every 2 weeks, which is 26 times a year. On what date did your most recent pay period end? So here is a calendar, and you pick your most recent pay period date. So in my example, it was March 27th. Enter the total wages you expect to receive this year. The example that I'm using, this person is making $50,000, so that's her total wages that she expects to receive. No bonuses for this particular scenario, so we can leave that blank. Using your last pay statement, enter the total amount of federal income tax held, first year to date. So how much taxes were taken out year to date? In the example I'm using, is 1615, because she's at a tax bracket that's 12% based on her standings and how much money she makes. So 12% roughly taken out of her paycheck. From the last check, she had $230 taken out. So I'm going to enter 230 because we enter whole numbers. And then the next question is, did you or will you contribute to a tax deferred retirement plan, such as a 401k? Now, in her example, she was pretty smart. Her job offers 401k matching. So I always tell everyone, and it's part of our personal cash flow plan, that you should be investing into your 401k if you're able to, and certainly at a minimum to get the company match. So her company matches 100% up to the first 3%. So she invests 3%. So I'm going to put yes here. And then it drops down and says how much. Well, she invests $1,500 because that's what's going to get her the 3% match. Did you or will you contribute to an HSA, FSA, pre-tax childcare credit, or other cafeteria plan? Unfortunately, she's not. Ideally, she should because she's got children, but she's not right now. So I'm going to click no. And then we go over to the next section, adjustments to income. So this section, adjustments to income, are different tax circumstances or different circumstances that will reduce your gross income, reduce the total amount of income. So it's a direct hit to reducing what the IRS reports on your total income. So we want to see any adjustments to income. So we look down here, student loan interest, educator expense. None of these qualify. Deductions for contributions outside of an IRA, HSA, moving expenses, alimony paid, penalty for early withdrawal. None of these areas apply. However, she's a My Econ associate. So as we all know, because as My Econ associates, we get tax preferential treatment from the IRS, where we get to tell the IRS, do not take taxes, I do not have to pay taxes against the expenses that I have. And so this section, while it doesn't make it obvious, because on the this form doesn't list all of the areas for adjustments to income, we're going to include it here. So this section that says certain business credits for reservists, performing artists, and fee-based government officials, for a new associate, we're going to use $5,000, which is a fairly low number in terms of business, an estimate for business expenses for the entire year. Just to give you an example, mileage alone, you can get $5,000 on mileage alone in terms of your tax deductions. And so at 57.5 cents a mile, which is the mileage rate, and let's just say 50 cents for calculation purposes, if you drove your car, say 20,000 and half of that was for business, 10,000, that's $5,000 by itself just on mileage alone. So it's a fairly conservative number, but we use a conservative number for a new associates because we want to make sure that you're going to actually be working your business like you should to qualify for the deductions and keeping good records as well. So we're going to use $5,000 here as the estimated business expense for the adjusted income section. Huge difference. And what I would encourage you to do, because the beauty of this calculator is you can model different scenarios as you go through. So if you're trying to show someone the benefits of My Econ, one way to do that would be to show them, take them through the W-4, and this is how our W-4 training is set up, to show them what it looks like if you don't have a business, and then take them through the scenario with adjustments to income with the tax deductions that you would get having a business, and show them the amount of savings that they could potentially get. So that's an excellent tool when you're looking to show someone the benefits of My Econ. So we're going to put 5,000 here and move on to next. Deductions from income. So the next section is any deductions from income. So this is where you have the ability to say, are you itemizing or are you taking a standard deduction? The standard deduction is what most people take because starting in 2018, the standard deduction increased, and it really showed you that the itemized deductions for most people, you didn't get enough, so we recommended that you take the standard deduction. In this example, she doesn't have a lot of things that will qualify, but we are going to take a look at the itemized deductions just to look at them and see. Medical and dental expenses, taxes that you may have paid, qualified interest, and I'm not going to go through these in detail because of the time, but I recommend clicking on each of these to understand what these are, because again, as you're helping other people complete the W-4, it's important that you understand, because they may have a situation or scenario where they would qualify for some of these areas. So you want to do your part to, number one, see if it applies to you, and number two, also see if it applies to the people that you may be helping complete the W-4. So in her case, she's taking the itemized deduction. She's filing as head of household, which is $18,650 for itemization, but we don't have to put those dollar amounts anymore in the new form. We just click itemized deduction, which is really cool. So then we're going to go to next. Tax credit. So this is the section where you may qualify for certain tax credits. And tax credits essentially are credits that reduce your tax liability, the amount of taxes that you have to pay. So it says here in her example, it actually tells you on the screen, based on your inputs, you qualify for tax credits for your dependents. Tax credits are what you can subtract directly from your tax obligation. So it says, do you want to learn more? Yes, I want to get my tax credits. I want every dollar I have coming to me. So we're going to click on see tax credit. So child and dependent related. In her case, she has children who are under the age of 18, and so it makes her eligible to look at getting child tax credits. So it says, the first one says, enter the number of qualifying children under 17. So she's got 2 children that qualify for the child tax credit. The next area says child independent care tax credit. Select the number of qualifying persons for child independent care tax credit. Well, she's paying $2,500 a year, so she qualifies for the dependent care tax credit. So, and both of them, it's for both children. So we're going to select 2 here. It also says enter an estimate of your work-related child independent care expenses. So I'm going to enter 2,500 here. The next one says earned income tax credit. Select the number of qualifying children. So this area is dependent on the number of children you make, number of children you have, and how much you make a year. So for her, she's got 2 children. Well, for 2020, the earned income credit limits for 2 children is $47,440. So she just makes a little bit more where she doesn't qualify for the earned income tax credit. So in this case, we're going to leave that blank. And then the adoption tax credit doesn't apply because she doesn't have any adopted children. And then these other areas, foreign tax credit, educational, retirement savings, homeowner, none of these other areas are applicable to her. But again, I encourage you to go through each of these areas and understand what they are in the event you have someone that you're working with, or in the fact that you actually may qualify for some of these different types of tax credits. So we're going to go on to next. So in this example, section 6 is your results section. So it makes it so much easier. And I love this visual representation because look at this. It shows you 0 refund. It's got this beautiful scale, and it shows you where you are on the scale. And I've helped many people complete this form. And it's really interesting because I've had people who were doing some things that they shouldn't have been doing. And I tell them, look, we're going to get you legal. We're going to get you legit. In some cases, they were actually saying, hey, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to owe, because they were they were playing with their, what they were entitled to by doing things like filing exempt, which we all know is a no-no if you're not legitimately entitled to it. So in this case, we see, you can go very easily and see that it says refund, and it tells us what the expected tax withholding is, $59.85. And look here, this person, a single mother with 2 children, or single parent with 2 children, making $50,000 a year, has an anticipated tax obligation of $0. Imagine showing this to someone who's a single parent with 2 children who's struggling financially. I personally have helped many people by showing them how a single parent making $50,000 or less with 2 children could be in a position where they don't have to pay federal taxes. So they're looking at a tax refund of almost $6,000. Well, as we know, our concept in MyEcon is we want to get that money back throughout the course of the year. So we want to, and again, this is the beauty of modeling, we want to slide the indicator, because there's this bar, the slider, and so you slide it back and it tells you different scenarios. So say I only wanted to get $3,000 back and cut my taxes the rest of the time, you can model that. Well, we want to break even. We don't want to pay any more or any less to the IRS than what we should. And so we slide the slider back. And then this example, this person, it says, to get your desired refund amount, you will need zero withheld from each paycheck, 230 less than your current tax withholding. So what does this mean to her? This means that out of every paycheck, she's going to have $230 more into her paycheck, and she gets paid bi-weekly, so roughly about $460 a month coming back into her household. Now, this begins the step of income shifting, right? Because now she's going to see more money. But get this, we're in April, right? So we're more than a third of the way through the year. Well, she's been overpaying. So look at this note and make sure you pay attention to the notes here. So it says, hey, you have already paid more than your total anticipated tax for this year. The recommendation in this tools are designed to eliminate your federal income tax withholding for the rest of the year. So what this is saying is she's already overpaid for the first 3 months of this year. So in addition to her not having any more taxes taken out, she will likely get a refund because she's already overpaid for the first 3 months of the year. Very cool. And this is actually what happened to me, guys. When I first joined my econ, I joined at the end of April, and I ended up adjusting my, W-4. I was able to bring home $550. I got paid twice a month. I was able to bring home $550 per paycheck, $1,100 a month. So you can imagine the power that I was afforded to really do some deep income shifting with $1,100 more a month back into my paycheck. And I still got a refund because I had been overpaying for the first 5 months almost of the year. So very cool. Most cases, they're very excited. Now we need to show them what to do. What are the next steps? So how to adjust your withholding. You can click here and it explains to you what you need to do. Enter the 3,300, exactly where you need to do it on line 3 of the Form W-4. But the cool part is you can actually click on this download pre-filled W-4. So one thing I will say is they've dumbed down the process. So now it actually is pre-filled out for you. And if your employer still takes the paper versions, all you've got to do is print it out, fill out the top portions, and submit this to your employer. Or if you file it online, you just need to know when you get to step 3, you're going to put 3,300 in step 3. You turn that in, and now she will no longer have taxes taken out of her paycheck. This is the beauty, guys, of our W-4 and my econ is we show people how to free up their own money, giving themselves an instant pay raise through this. And most people see anywhere from 200 to 1,000. I know I personally was on the higher end, but man, I was in a high tax bracket. And I have to tell you, my tax bracket has been reduced down to around 6 to 7% following all of the strategies at my econ. So these strategies work. Make sure if you're helping people come into my econ that they get this W-4 done as soon as possible, because ideally before they pay that first monthly fee, they're going to see the increase in their paychecks, and it's going to motivate them to want to do more. Thank you guys very much.